Greetings one and all, welcome back to my humble abode. I have alluded to the fact in a previous video that I am a martial arts doing individual. And by alluded, I mean I came out and said it. But I didn't tell you guys then the extent of it. I'm a Taekwondo black belt, got a black belt when I was 14, okay? I also have a national championship in USSSA. So, the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I have found a way to make this a teachable moment. Yes I have. I'm going to be talking about hierarchy. I'm going to be talking about rank. I'm going to be talking about titles and what they actually do mean. And what they don't mean. So, starting off, I have a quote to look at by the great martial artist, the great competitor, Bill Superfoot Wallace. Here is what he says. Students today lack that kind of dedication, that drive to improve. They forget that you can learn from anybody. I've been nailed and nailed good by white belts and haven't been touched by black belts. You should use everything in your martial arts training as a learning experience. Sometimes at my seminars, I'll pair a white belt and a black belt. If you ask them to take off their belts, a lot of the time you can't tell which is which during a sparring match. Excellent point in case you thought that my credibility wasn't enough. We have a great. So, reason I bring this up is because I want to talk about how rank in and of itself does not have a one-to-one correlation with ability. And you can see this in any realm. You can see this in sciences, where someone with a bachelor's degree or no degree at all might actually be more knowledgeable about a specific topic than someone with a master's or a doctorate. You can see this in even just the working world, right? I've had managers before who think they know what they're talking about on a certain topic or in a certain area, but I, having had direct hands-on experience, actually knew better. But they had the title, but that didn't equate with their knowledge. Okay? So, titles don't equate to an actual improvement of ability or knowledge in a one-to-one way. So that's what titles aren't. Let's talk about what titles are, what credibility itself is, What it is, in my personal experience, and by the way, anytime you're using anecdotal evidence or personal experience, you need to filter it through logic and reasoning and not just use common sense, because that would be basically a logical fallacy known as argument from incredulity. Okay? In my experience, with that being said, what rank and what title actually does, the purpose it actually serves, is to eliminate the need for deliberation. And this is how I mean. If someone has a higher rank than you, say in a martial arts setting or in a paramilitary or military style rank setting, you immediately listen to them, and you don't deliberate as to whether or not you're going to listen to them. So in that way, a rank, title by rank, serves the purpose of getting rid of the need to deliberate when you have a situation where you need to act instantly. I bet that was really loud. Screw with you guys for a minute. So that's a good thing, right? Not overall a good thing entirely. Let's not look at this in a black and white way, right? But it does serve a purpose. I'll grant you that. But what the purpose is not to be a determinant of actual ability. Referencing back to the Wallace quote. Okay? So, let's actually talk about another realm where credibility is used, but it doesn't have anything to do with rank or title. And that's when it has to do with only personal authority. Where you're giving credibility to what someone says just because they said it. And for that, I have a quote by the great Thomas Hobbes, who has been very largely influential to my own philosophy. And the irony of sharing this quote, and you'll see why, is not lost on me. This is what he says. For words are wise men's counters, they do but reckon by them. But they are the money of fools, that value them by the authority of an Aristotle, a Cicero, or a Thomas, or any other doctor whatsoever, if but a man. And another thing in his book, he goes on to talk about how reasoning basically follows the same rules as mathematics, right? But we'll get into that in a future video. For now, let's point out that reasoning should be the metric by which you judge your physical reality and ideas. Huh? Not by titles, not by hierarchy, not by what an institution or an individual who has a high level of credibility says. It should always be filtered through logic and reasoning. And there is a reason for that. As Thomas Hobbes alluded to, men are fallible. Human beings are fallible. Just because someone has a diploma, or a doctorate degree, or a black belt, does not mean they're right on every subject. Does not mean they're right even within their own subject on a specific matter. You always have to filter that, not only through your experience, but through logic and reasoning. Because titles, ranks, diplomas, degrees, any other kind of credibility that's based entirely off of basically a piece of paper or based on what other people say, right? Other people say, going back to how men are fallible, human beings, probably. That kind of thinking is erroneous. Logic and reasoning should be what rules your executive decision and the way that you interpret the world around you. Huh? So yeah, I'm saying that's it for today, huh? Thank you for listening to my ramblings. Thank you for being here. If you want to add anything else, if you just want to share some of your personal experience with this, leave a comment. You're more than welcome to. Love and gratitude. Thank you for listening. Done.